Hi, I'm Peter Carney from cityfoodgrowers.com.au. We're in a beautiful winter morning here in southeast Queensland with all the birds singing behind us. And today I'll be talking to you about how to fertilise your garden using liquid fertilisers that you make in your garden. So that's mainly using weeds and plants that you grow. So let's start with the sorts of things that you would use to make liquid fertilizer. So starting with weeds. Now, you know, weeds grow in your gardens. No matter what you do, they'll still grow. But nature has actually provided those weeds to you really as a gift, because the weeds give fertility to the soil as they grow. They give organic matter. So rather than poisoning the weeds, pulling them out and throwing them away and considering them as an enemy, you can use them as nature provided them to you by turning them into a fertilizer. So by simply pulling your weeds out, this weed here is called chickweed, which is quite common in our garden, and it's actually edible. It's a really healthy plant to eat, but it does grow quite a bit in this garden. So by pulling the weeds out, and it's better to only do one weed when you're making this. Don't mix a whole lot of weeds in together. So you pull a weed out of the garden, one type of weed that is really common, and put it into a bucket. So, and really it can be any weed that is an issue in your garden. So I'll go into how it's made in the bucket in a moment, but other plants that you can use to turn into liquid fertilizer in your garden are stinging nettle, which is really wonderful for soil fertility, and you can also use it for a very healthy tea to drink. So not only is it a healthy liquid for the garden, but it's also a healthy liquid for yourself. Another great plant to use is comfrey, which comfrey is a deep-rooted plant, draws up a lot of minerals, draws minerals out of the air as it grows. So turning that into a liquid fertilizer is great as well for the garden. And comfrey can also be used as a compost ingredient. So you've identified the plant that you want to use to fertilise your garden with, to make a liquid fertiliser. So let's say in this case it's chickweed. So you pull some chickweed out of the garden here, put it in a bucket, and cover this bucket with cover the weeds that I accumulate in this bucket with water. So it's covered, and then I'll usually cover the bucket like this, so that it isn't exposed to the air. So what will happen? This will start to decompose in the water, and you need to stir the mixture each day. It'll start to get smelly pretty quickly, and that's good because that's the decomposing process happening. So you stir it just like that each day. That's all. Only takes a minute. And after about 2 weeks, roughly, it'll stop smelling, because it'll start to get a smell pretty quickly within a few days because of the process you're using. But when the decomposing process has stopped, the smell will disappear, and you'll be left with a liquid that, this one here is comfrey, and it has no smell at all. So you've got it to a point where the organic matter is sort of broken down quite a lot. There's a liquid. You then need to filter it. So put it through, some sort of gauze or whatever it is to get all the organic matter out, and then put it into a container and you've got some liquid fertiliser. So then what? How do you use it? And why would you use it? Well, let's start with the why actually, before the how. So it's great to use fertiliser when you have new plants in your garden and they're weak. We've got a bed here of they're cabbages that have been planted here recently. So I'll put some liquid fertiliser on those brand new seedlings. Or if any plants in your garden look like they're suffering a bit, they need a bit of help. You can have a general, fertilising regime in your garden where you might put out some liquid fertiliser, once a month or something like that. So instead of buying expensive fertiliser at a nursery, make it yourself. It's really it's a fun process, and so how do you apply it? Well, you get a watering can, and we have one here, and you dilute the mixture about 1 to 10. So in this bucket here we have the comfrey tea. So this watering can is about 3/4 full. So the colour of this liquid is very much like a tea. It's not very dark. So it's very potent in minerals. And so then it's poured onto the garden. So around some of the plants it's poured. So pretty simple really to make it with your weeds or your or plants that you specifically grow. And I think one of the things to recognise with the fertiliser that you make yourself in this sort of process out of using weeds or plants that are grown in your garden is they have something that any fertiliser product you buy at a nursery will never have. And that is that they've grown in the environment of your garden. And your garden, the success of your garden depends quite a bit on enhancing the individual character of the garden by attempting to use as much as you can around your garden that grows in and around it as well in order to fertilise the soil. It's a bit like nature's process in a way, but you're fine-tuning it. So by using what grows in your garden as part of your fertilisation regime, you're adding something that you can't buy anywhere. And on top of that, there's really part of you in it because you're making it, you're stirring it, you're pouring it. I mean, really your thinking is actually right in that mixture. So it's good fun to make. You don't need any money to do it, and you'll probably have no problem finding weeds. I don't think any gardener has any problem finding weeds, and you can use the weeds to enhance the soil, because with the weeds, it's interesting, different weeds grow over time based on the changing state of your soil. So by recognising that they grow to give something to the soil, then but you don't want them to compete with the plants that you're growing, you can use their capacity to improve the soil by turning them into a liquid and pouring them onto the garden. I know that's something that the pesticide and herbicide industry would definitely not want to know, that weeds actually grow to give something to the soil and that they're not an enemy. So it's quite a powerful way of transforming your thinking about the garden. We also add some biodynamic preparations into our mixtures as well, which are based on herbs, and they increase the potency of the mixture and enhance the soil even more. So that's it for making liquid fertiliser out of weeds and plants that you grow. So please enjoy your weeding and fertilising. That's Peter Carney from cityfoodgrowers.com.au.